Hello everyone and welcome back wherever and whenever you're watching. I'm back with another video. This time it will be, what I picked up this past week, which is, it was a very light week actually. If you've been watching my videos, you know which two annuals I picked up. And actually, being light as it was, I actually picked up a couple of back issues. So let's get this show on the road. Let's get started. First up, annual Superman annual number 2, which should actually be called, Lois Lane, Superman's friend Lois Lane, because it's a Lois-centric um, story, and it actually fills in the backstory of what's been going on in the current books. So, uh, as I suspected, actually. And it's through Lewis that we actually learn what's going on. And actually, in this issue, in this story, Lewis actually gets involved in the happenings of the book. Since Lewis hasn't shown up quite a bit in the past couple of issues, this book actually brings her in. It ends with a cliffhanger. It starts with a cliffhanger actually, and then we go through flashbacks, and we actually learn a few things about who the 20 are, which were being mentioned since issue 21. We learn a little bit more about them in 22, but here we actually get the whole backstory of that. Uh, we actually learn we get Brainiac's origin uh, here, or partial origin here. Uh, if you will, think there's gonna be I think there's a Brainiac Villains Month issue, so I don't know what that's gonna be. If it's gonna be like an origin, or if it's actually gonna be dealing with Brainiac coming back to Earth, because they mention here that Brainiac is actually, returning, and I still wanna know how the how that's gonna play out with Supergirl, because it's been confirmed that Brainiac actually plays a role in the current Supergirl story arc, so this could be like a sort of not a non-crossover where events just kind of start weaving together, but not necessarily crossing over, because you know if Brainiac's coming back, I mean he's pretty darn close with Supergirl being you know involved with Brainiac. So I guess you could say even Cyborg Superman might have some connection to Brainiac. It seems so. It's implied in the last issue of Supergirl. So I'm very curious to see how that appearance plays up with the upcoming Villains Month, and the ongoing subplot here. Uh, the issue also has the next chapter of the World of Krypton backup story that's been running in action, and actually this is like the penultimate episode, and it concludes in the next issue in Action 23. In Action Comics 23. Okay. Anyways, I also got this from my store shop. Actually, from the small shop that I go to, where I actually picked up, this issue. I actually go to two shops. One's a large chain, and I actually go to their main store, and the smaller shop, which is the first shop I ever went to. So, anyways, the special edition of All Star Superman. Now, I really didn't care if I didn't get this freebie. I when they were giving it away originally was in the so-called Superman Day, and I really didn't care if it. So when that day came, that day I didn't go to the shop. I really didn't care if I didn't get it because I actually have the original issue. I actually only have two issues of All-Star Superman. I dropped it with number three because the book was taking so long to come out that other things caught my attention, and I said like, you know what? No, I don't want to buy this book anymore. I have other books to buy. I just don't want to add it to my pull pull list, or because I actually just picked it up off the rack, and it wasn't even in my pool, so it was easy to drop it. But I've been thinking of maybe I should start getting the rest of the series as many issues as I can get, and then just filling the gaps later on. Um, so so that's a goal actually, just to pick up a couple of few issues every now and then of All Star Superman. Um, Next, now this is this next three books I picked up at the larger shop, which is Flash Annual number 2, which I gotta say, well, I can get my my annuals with in the small shop. I actually get the annual as part of my regular pool. If I buy the regular series, I get the annual. In the larger shop, you actually have to have a separate order for the annual. So you just get the regular series, and if you want the annual, you have to actually ask for them to be added to your pool list. So that's why this one doesn't have a bag like my regular Flash issues. So Flash Annual number 2. Uh, it's another like sort of like flashback issue. Remember the first one was it, I think, also kind of revisited that bit, the Flash's past, but I'm not certain. I haven't been a year since the last annual. But anyway, like the Superman annual, this is sort of a flashback as well. Starts in the present, and you get some a flashback from the past, and then you come back to the present. So the annual actually, as you can see, guest stars Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, and the meat of the story is actually their first meeting. The first case they work together kind of comes back and bites them in the ass. Been years, and then suddenly this first case kind of comes out, returns for them, which or their first case together was they were searching for children that had been disappearing mysteriously. As it turns out, they were being kidnapped by aliens who were training them to become warriors in some sort of a battle arena. So, Flash and Green Lantern are able to shut them down. But it turns out that, Hal actually got them into a little deal where they would, have to, at some point, participate in one of the fights. So, it's a fun book. It's fun, it's a fun body book. It's a body book, It's fun, you can really see how the contrast between, the personalities between, Barry and Hal. It's fun. It's a really fun book, and it actually has and the backup is actually a very nice story of kind of shows how Flash's actions sort of influenced people's lives. Uh, for the most part, it was a positive influence. But in one instance, during a fire, Flash wasn't even able to save a woman who had actually died even before the fire was reported. So she was dead, or she was already dead. Uh, and the widower, kind of comes returned. That was like that happened like 2 years earlier. And so in the present, the guy returns, kind of wants to see the Flash. He says that bombs planted. It was gonna blow up the building. Very sad, very tragic. But in the end, while this man, had a very tragic story, a very sad story, for the most part, there's, the little things, that matter, you know, that, Flash kind of influenced or brought about, hard to explain. Like, it's a very nice story. So the next two books are my back issues for the week. First up, uh, The Adventures of Superman number 502. Uh, it's fun. It's a fun story, and I really, really like this era of Superman. It was probably the one that was the most stable eras that that character has had in years. It started with Byrne and Marv Wolfman, the whole post-crisis reboot, and then they had this team lined up in the 90s, that pretty much stayed throughout the entire decade, from throughout the entire decade, with a few additions. I mean, Louise Simonson, she was in The Man of Steel for since that its first issue to around maybe around 1999, I guess 98. With John Bogdanov, as the artist. He was the artist, I think, throughout the entire Louis Simonson era. In fact, the style change. You had Dan Jorgens, Superman, both as writer and artist, and just as writer. But very very stable time for Superman. Yes, there were a few bad stories, but for the but there's always good stories. There's always bad stories, and it depends on who you're asking. Maybe a good story might be a bad story. Maybe a bad story might be a good story for somebody else. Um, and I'm actually buying a lot of. I'm gonna be buying a lot of Superman from the from this era because I'm trying to actually get as full a run of Superman as I can get. So right now I'm going to like my doables, my short-term doable books, which would be, for example, Adventures of Superman, which is the original Superman from 1939. I'm actually gonna go from issue 500 to the last issue, which from 500 to 600, you know, is the one that has the largest gap. From 600 to 714, I think that was the last issue. I only need a few issues from the 600s. Same goes for Action. For Action is like from 700 to 904. So obviously I have the last issues of Action. So I'll be going from 700 to 800 and just filling the gap from 800 to where you know, just filling the gap of the 800s to the first issue I have of Action. There's a few gaps there I have to fill, but that's the doable part. Then I'm slowly going to start filling in the gaps from maybe 500, 400 to 500 for Adventures of Superman, and from what was that 500 to 600 from 600 to 500, 500 from 600 to 700, or and maybe going back from 500 to 700, I guess. You know, just trying to fill in slowly the older stuff, because Superman goes way back. So the books that I can get, create as full a run as I can. Obviously, I won't be able to do the entire golden age, early 50s, mid 50s. You know, those are. I'm not even considering, you know, on those. Just maybe most of the silver age that I can get, I guess, up to now. So I'm actually working on 500 right now, I guess 500 and 600. So this is the next one, because I have 500, 500, 500, 500, 501, and 502. And maybe work on them with 400s, I guess. Anyways, rambling here. Next up, see, I'm Superman number Adventures of Superman number 612. Actually, the covered by Kevin Nolan, but I actually wanted to get this book, even before thinking of completing the having complete runs of Superman, because when this book came out back in 03, I actually heard a lot about this book. They even did an interview with Joe Casey about it, because as you can see, you have like the original, Schuster Superman, beating the modern Superman, or the current Superman, if you will, from that time. And it's an interesting story. Actually, I really don't like. I'm not too crazy about it. It's good art, but I'm not too crazy about it, because it's a little bit too cartoony. So I guess if you ask, it's a little bit bulkier. You get a very bulky looking Clark. You get a very bulky Clark. Very cartoony stuff. But the story itself, it's very good, because it kind of goes to, it's in the same vein, I guess, as Action Comics 775, which explores, what Superman means, actually. So here we see like the original model, if you will, the champion of the oppressed, against, and you kind of get a contrast of, Superman as the man who works with, the authorities. He goes by the book, so he's a guy who's very limited to his actions. He does he's very limited with his actions. He actually just gets the criminals. He's in judge and jury and executioner. He's very limited. But if you will remember, the original Superman would actually, be much more proactive, and he probably beat the snot about a few bad guys. Even corrupt politicians. He probably beat up a few bad people throughout, his earlier career. But that doesn't really apply in this world. So yeah, Superman, the original model, was this guy was showed up. He was created by this writer, and he sort of had, I guess, a power he had, because once he created this prototype Superman, I guess you could say. Uh, he shows up, and the cool thing about this issue is that it sort of starts mimicking passages from Action Comics #1. You know, uh, like the wife beater. There's a replay on that. The on that, the opening sequence where he stops an execution uh, because the real culprit is found. But he doesn't go by the book. He doesn't do what the law says. He creates his own law, and 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 so I mean, what he does is wrong. It's very hard to describe, but um, you know we get this whole guy just coming in, beating people up, and you know uh, I I guess you have to read the story, but Superman says something like, you're not supposed to take the law in your own hands. You can. We are here to inspire people to be better, not force them to be. Or there's so much injustice in the world, says the original guy, the prototype, this original model, and so he basically says, there's so much darkness in the world, so who those who can't fight for themselves, who fights for them? And someone says, you're right, but we're more we serve more as inspiration than being. We don't judge people, we inspire people, we try to make them see another way. We don't take the law into our own hands, if you will. So it's a very interesting story, and it does kind of look into who Superman is and what he stands for, and even if he can't do what he used to do back in the 30s, uh, you know there is a valid point on the original idea. I guess the original idea is not necessarily gone, but it's adapted to a more lawful world, I guess, law-abiding world, where there are institutions and where heroes should, you should follow their example and not, bully people, I guess. Interestingly enough, that's what Grant Morrison was going for his earlier Superman in the New 52, sort of go back to being a hero of the people as he was back then. So that's why you can get a much more rusher Superman in the Grant Morrison stuff. Like the original idea doesn't change; it's still there, but it adapts, I guess you could say. So, anyways, it was a good week for me. I hope you had a good week and you enjoyed your books. And I'll be seeing you next time. Hopefully that package soon arrive soon, so we could do the unboxing. Should be arriving next week, I guess. Maybe on Monday. I'm not sure. So, anyways, until next time, keep smiling.